Today, Senate Republicans are still working in good faith on border policy changes that will allow the Senate to pass a national security supplemental. I'm hopeful that Democrats, both here and at the White House, are beginning to recognize how committed we are to addressing the crisis at our southern border. I'm hopeful that we can reach an agreement and address two national security priorities. Meanwhile, the challenges we're facing at home and abroad are not solving themselves. As of today, U.S. personnel in Iraq and Syria have faced at least 92 attacks from Iran-backed terrorists since October, including just last week against the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad. Meanwhile, Iran's Houthi proxies are escalating their threats against shipping vessels in one of the busiest checkpoints of international maritime commerce. Iraq and its terrorist network are not deterred. They believe they can try to kill Americans with impunity. And yet last week, leading Senate Democrats joined a failed effort to withdraw America's presence in Syria. 3 members of the Democratic caucus leadership cast votes to retreat in the face of an emboldened terrorist threat. So did the chair of the Foreign Relations Subcommittee that deals with the Middle East. It's time for our colleagues to get serious about the threats we face. Fortunately, the Senate is on track to pass the long-awaited National Defense Authorization Act. I'm grateful to Ranking Member Wicker and Chairman Reid for the extensive work required to bring this must-pass legislation across the goal line. This year, the Armed Services Committee considered 445 amendments, and another 121 were adopted here on the floor. And thanks to the dedicated efforts of many of our colleagues on this side of the aisle, the bill they produced asserts the Senate's priorities on a host of national security issues where the Biden administration's approach continued to fall short. This year's NDAA recognizes the need to strengthen America's position in strategic competition with China through targeted improvements in critical capabilities from long-range fires and anti-ship weapons to modernizing our nuclear triad. I'll authorize further investments in the defense industrial base and expand efficiency and accountability of the lethal assistance degrading Russia's military in Ukraine. It'll turbocharge cooperation with Israel on future missile defense technologies and ensure our closest ally in the Middle East can access the U.S. capabilities it needs when it needs them. It'll give America's men and women in uniform a pay raise. It'll focus the Pentagon more squarely on tackling national security challenges instead of creating new ones with partisan social policies. And in my home state of Kentucky, it'll advance important initiatives to expand production at Bluegrass Army Depot and reduce U.S. reliance on competitors for materials critical to our defense. Of course, Congress can't fix the Biden administration's weakness on the world stage by ourselves. We can equip a global superpower, but we still need a commander-in-chief who recognizes that he's leading one.
The 2 words I've used to describe each party here in the Senate continue to be relevant. Democrats are still trying to reach an agreement. Republicans need to show they're still serious about getting something done. Democrats trying, Republicans need to be serious. Unfortunately, too many Republicans now seem more interested about flying home for the holidays than sticking around to finish the job. For months, Republicans insisted that action on the border is a crisis that can't wait. But with the holidays around the corner, they're suddenly saying, never mind, this can wait till next year. If Republicans say the border is an emergency, then they should be prepared to stay. Crying fire about the border one minute and saying we should go home the next is the definition of unserious. An emergency is an emergency. If you argue there's an emergency at the border, an emergency in Ukraine, you can't pretend to be serious about solving them if you think we should go home. Now, months ago, the Biden administration put forward a comprehensive plan to tackle border security. For weeks, we implored our Republican colleagues to get serious and offer a credible bipartisan proposal, not Donald Trump's extreme border policies as contained in H.R. 2. Weeks were wasted, and now here we are. Progress is being made, but progress must be allowed to be continued. Yes, this is difficult, very difficult, but we're sent here to do difficult things. If Republicans are serious about getting something done on the border, why are so many in a hurry to leave? Do they not want to reach an agreement on border security? Republicans should not be so eager to go home. I hope we can reach an agreement very soon to pass a supplemental through the Senate, because the only people happy right now about the gridlock in Congress are Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin. Putin is delighting in the fact that Donald Trump's border policies are sabotaging military aid to Ukraine. Republicans should not be so content to throw their hands in the air and kick the can down the road. Our friends in Ukraine, after all, are not on our timeline. They don't get a Christmas break on the battlefield. Their fight against Vladimir Putin is a matter of life and death. And if Putin prevails, it will come back to haunt the United States and the whole Western world in the very near future. So if my Republican friends care at all about taking a stand against Russian autocrats, they should get serious about reaching an agreement. If Republicans care about defending democracy, about protecting freedom and preserving America's values around the world, they should get serious about reaching an agreement. If Republicans truly think the border is an emergency, and if they support truly the cause of the Ukrainian people as they claim, then they should get serious about reaching an agreement very soon. We're writing a chapter in history this week. Will Republican obstruction hand a democratic country over to the forces of autocracy? Will autocrats see America's inaction as a green light to keep going? Will places like Taiwan come next? Or will we do what America has done again and again and again throughout America's glorious history and stand with our democratic friends in need? Will we do what's necessary to keep the democratic order the U.S. helped create after the Second World War? These are the stakes. Senate Democrats have made clear which side of history we want to be on. We want to stand with President Zelensky and the brave people of Ukraine. We want to stand for democratic order. We hope our Republican colleagues are ready to do the same. NDAA. As soon as later today, the Senate will approve our annual Defense Authorization Act, one of the most important bills we passed each year to protect the American people and ensure our long-term security. Last night, senators overwhelmingly voted to end debate on the NDAA by 85 to 15. That's a strong sign of support, and it shows you the momentum for finishing the NDAA quickly. We'll work today to reach a time agreement with Republicans to finish the job on the NDAA as soon as today.